from the Department of Nursing.
I'm Steve Castellano. I'm the Blackboard administrator and the online learning technologist at Lehman College.
And we have a wonderful relationship between the nursing department and between IT, because I think as the speaker talked about this morning, it's not that our students don't have this ability to use technology. It's really our ability to keep up with them and to keep them engaged in any form of technology. So we have a wonderful working relationship. So our presentation is about the master class, and it's really the directions. How do you put together a master class? What is a master class? And we'll talk about that. So first of all, what is the master class? It meets all course objectives and standards. Now, no matter what department you're in, every single department has certain criteria, objectives, national standards, maybe updates in nursing. We're looking for best practices. And we want to make sure that every student who sits in that class, Nursing 303, gets that same level, high level of objectives and standards. It standardizes the organization of course materials. We have to be student friendly. So if a student takes a class with me and I organize my material this way and takes a course with Steve, he organizes it differently, then now the student has to learn all over. How do I get through these nursing classes? So our goal is really to try to standardize all our courses so when a student opens it up, it's student friendly. And it contains all the required materials. So that means assignments, PowerPoints, podcasts, and it can be individualized. So just because we have one master class, it doesn't mean that Sean, when he teaches it, cannot put his own flavor to it, his own addition to it. So we do want faculty, and that's why we hire faculty, for their expertise to be able to bring that special something to it. And it's a shell that can be copied. And this is where it's Steve and IT is invaluable. How do we put together a course to make sure that it meets all of our requirements?
Well, one of the things that students seem to complain about, and I don't know if this is in your experience, but a lot of times students will say, I don't mind using the Blackboard, but everything is in a different place. So with this kind of standardizes it, so this way the students will know where to look for the content, because Blackboard is not very friendly with giving it names, giving the content area names. They're very germane names. So we try to be very specific with the names that we give all the content areas in the classes, so the students can find the material like that. That's what we want to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and that's because the students call Steve and IT. So that's why it's really important to collaborate with the IT department, because they know what the problems are. So next one. So these are the master course links. So Steve is the one, maybe you can say how you put those together for us.
So what we do is we make a master course shell, and there's nobody in that class. That's the territory that nobody goes in, and we just link the other classes to the master class. So nobody's ever really going in that master class. Do you follow?
Yeah, so that means that if we're making a master class for clinical decision making, that means that no student will ever go in there. And that means when we update, so everybody here teaches classes, you update every semester, correct? So now what we do is we get together and we update the master class, and then that's the class that now is updated for everybody else. But no student is ever allowed to step foot in that class because it gets contaminated. And not because the students are contaminating, but because now we've put people in there, and it's no longer standardized. We've now put dates in there. So the master class has no dates. So
kind of like walking through the snowfield, and it's nicer when it looks like there's no footprints.
And that's exactly the way it is. Everything
Right.
has with dates, requirement dates, when it's due. Those are all blanks. So if you get someone else's syllabus, you got to make sure you go back and change everything. Now, I don't know about you, but I tend to go back and I always miss that one thing. And they say, oh, well, isn't the exam on this day? And I say, no, it's not, but I missed it. So the master also has the syllabus. So why and when? Well, when we look at what the job we have to do is every student who comes to our college deserves to have excellence in education. And we hire faculty for their excellence. But we have to make sure that just because you take my class, you're not going to get this experience and this knowledge, and you take this person's class and that wasn't focused on. So we really want to make sure that our students get that excellence in education no matter whose class they come to. Again, standards, we can make sure that we have the newest standards. So we were just talking about HIV. Maybe we want to make sure that when we include the CDC websites, that it is the most current data that we have. And maybe you can talk about the student experience, because Steve is the one that gets the complaints. When things are really good, students don't tend to say, oh, wow, that was great, I loved it. But when there's an issue, so.
Well, with the master classes, we don't really get too much. There's really no complaints at all from the student class members with regard to these classes. A lot of times the complaints are that a professor has created an assignment or asked the students to do an assignment, but there's no place for the students to upload it. And that's because the professor may have inadvertently created the assignment as an item instead of creating it as an assignment where it can be uploaded into Blackboard. So a lot of times the students get frustrated with that, because it's funny, as Mary just said, a lot of times the students know the technology, and sometimes the professors are like, well, I don't understand. What's the difference between an item and an assignment? I don't get that. Well, it's like if you create an assignment, you're making something that the students can upload, and it's going to go into your grade center, and you're going to grade it from there. If you're going to just create an item, it's something that you're going to hand out and expect the students to print out and maybe hand it back to you in class. So sometimes the terminology is a little bit different between this, students and the professors.
And then we can make sure that we put that into the master class. So then we make sure everybody has that assignment, and it goes right to Safe Assign. And it's up to the professor to decide what the date is that it would be due. So it facilitates student engagement. There are teachers who are very comfortable with technology and use podcasts and Blackboard Collaborate and use all different types of videos. And then there's other faculty that are not real comfortable with it. But all of our students really require us to teach them, not just in reading, but in interactive type of learning. And the master class allows every single faculty member, whether you're really comfortable with it or not, to have that opportunity that your students are going to get that very varied experience. And it takes advantage of faculty expertise, because when we get together and develop the master class, someone will say, well, and we just had this discussion about an exam. I said, well, I don't think it should be this. And boy, I was overruled. And then as we discussed it, I said, you're right. So do we take advantage of our expertise? I don't think so. I think a lot of times we do our own course, we work our own way, but we do not talk with everyone else. This forces us to do that.
It's true.
So this is an example of course standardization. And if you can look at, you can see the different buttons, and every single button that anyone takes, let's say in this master class, and I think we're going to do that for the entire online program that we have. So here I have course documents. Now in another nursing class it might say course materials, and in another course it might say materials. So what are we telling the student to do for every class they take in our department? Learn new terminology. So we make sure that we have the same exact course buttons throughout at least the master, and the goal is to do it throughout the department. And you can create these, and you can kind of space them a little bit, so when they come on, it's a little bit nicer to the eye. And this is where you can also customize it. So this is purple, and maybe, Steve, what color do you want to put? He can change the color of the buttons.
We can make another thing.
So, I mean, we can change the difference. If you were teaching this master course and we copied it to you, all this information would be here and it would be blank. So all you would have to do is put your information into those areas. this actually isn't the master. This is my 301 class, I think.
Oh, you're right, it is.
Yeah, 301, but that's okay. Standardization of assignments in Blackboard. That means that we will go week by week, and every single folder will have the same type of outline, so students are used to it. They say, oh, well, these are the topics that we're covering, and there's going to be a podcast, and these are the topics that we're covering here. This is an example of course documents. So that means that if all of a sudden 1 week prior to being told that you were going to teach this class, you would call Steve up and say, Steve, I need this course copied over. All of these documents would then come over into your class, so you would not have to then set up this entire Blackboard. Now, does that mean that you have to use every single thing in here? You do not. The only thing that we have to make sure is that the standards are the same, the assignments are the same, and the testing is the same. Anybody know what that is? Natasha knows, right?
There's the collaborative.
So this is actually an example of how we have student engagement. When we had, this was a class I did on fluid and electrolytes, so this might actually be something that the team would look at and say, yeah, you know what? Even though there was other students in it, we didn't see the students, so we didn't have to kind of worry about student identity and confidentiality. But we might decide to say, this was a really good 20-minute discussion on fluid and electrolytes. Let's put that in the master for the next person. So now they can do that, and we make those decisions.
So one of the important things to keep in mind with a class such as this is that the department, Mary is not dictating to the other professors what to teach. She's giving a guideline, and she's saying, you know what, in order to do this course right, you should have this material. So she's not telling the other professors, you know, this is the Bible. She's saying this is a good guideline. Add to it if you want, make it better, and then at the end of the semester we'll talk about what you did, and maybe we can roll it out for future classes. So it's and especially like in a program like nursing where everything really is, I mean, the nursing industry or the healthcare industry is very much standard. You know, there are certain protocols that everybody follows. So on the educational side, I think we have to be doing the same thing. We have to follow the same protocol that they're following out in the healthcare field. So we're kind of, when the students get to the hospital or when they get into a clinical setting, they're going to know what to do. They're going to know how to handle a certain situation.
And you bring up a good point about certain things that have to stay the same. So if I teach a clinical decision making and I say, well, here's our midterm, and someone else teaches and says, you know, I don't think we should have a midterm in that course, we can't do that. Every student who takes a certain course has to be evaluated in the same way, otherwise we're not equitably really testing them.
And doing a disservice to the student.
And we are doing a disservice. And it pits them one against each other, and it pits them against the faculty. And the faculty may have done that because they thought that they had something that was better. But individual faculty members can't make that decision. This is how we're going to measure it in my class this semester. We need to do this as a whole because that's where we get the brain work, is when we collaborate. So now who maintains it? Well, one faculty member has to take the lead because you can't have 5 people saying, okay, I'll update this on the master course, I'll update this. Now you have a master course that is no longer virgin snow. But then all faculty teaching the course have to meet at the semester at the end, and they have to review and they have to update. Now, you know what it's like at the end of the semester to get people to come back and do this? Not easy. So you really have to be vigilant, because if we want the best product, we need the most and best minds to be able to do that. So here is our faculty team. We met, and I told them I had to take their picture because we just redid the final exam. And how nice. We had 3 people looked at the final exam and said, this is how we're going to do it. The 2 of us are teaching online programs. She's teaching an inline, a live program. So now we're making sure not only is it standardized with the course, but we're making sure that students in different types of online or live learning get the same experience. And this is you.
So, where is the master class stored? We make an archive of the course every semester, so I pull it down. I actually download the class. It also stays in the Blackboard shell, but I also pull down a copy of it in case we need, in case something happens to the main course shell. I have a backup copy of it, and I actually do it a couple of times during the semester. I'll do it right about the midterm, and then I'll do it once at the final exam, or right after the semester is over. So the instructor, if a new instructor is coming in to teach the course, if a new professor gets hired, and very frequently at Lehman College, I'm sure at your schools, and in here, they're hiring people after the semester actually begins, and I'll get a call from a teacher and say, I gotta get into the Blackboard, can you get me in? And I'll say, we got you covered. We got all the classes already there for you, don't worry about it. Just go in and teach it, and then you can add the material as you see fit. You can add more material to it. And then what we'll do is we'll copy the course from semester to semester. Once additions or revisions have been made, we'll copy the new shell into, we'll copy the new material into a brand new course shell. So it kind of works out. It kind of works out very nice for us.
So this is kind of the how-to. So first you need to create the shell course, because I know we all sit together and we talk about, well, this is what we're going to do in this course, but where do you put it? So now you have 5 faculty members sitting and say, okay, well, we like this assignment. So where are you putting it? You have the shell course, you put it immediately into that shell.
Right, this is a course shell, and Helen and Chandra will understand this, no problem, but this is a course shell that's outside of CUNY First. You own the shell. So in other words, if you were to do it here at Hostos, George would create that course, and it would be outside of CUNY First. It's not a course that has any enrollment to it. It's an outside course. So we keep it separate. We want it separate. So this way we know nothing will ever happen to it. It's our course. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, because we have so many good ideas. It's kind of like, who's taking the minutes, and that person has to go home and write all the minutes, and where is all the paperwork? You sit down as a group, you just start uploading into the master and then just move it around so it never gets lost. You do need a lead. We need course and content experts. The team specifically identifies weekly assignments to meet the course objectives. So now this group goes and says, in week 1, I don't know, I think it could be stronger. Let's change this weekly assignment. And then the master class syllabus is developed. We look at the course buttons and then we say, okay, do we think that these are good? Do we think that it's clear with the students? I know I got 5 minutes here, right? Course materials for each weekly class and assignment are reviewed. Every single weekly folder is looked at. It has the same format. So the student opens it up. The first one is always, these are the objectives. Here are your assignments. Here are your materials. So it's all the same. So the student has they don't have to relearn this. But now the faculty says, you know what, that assignment is 5 years old already. I think that we need better assignments. We want to make sure that it's engaging. So it can't just be all PowerPoints and PowerPoints. It has to be podcasts, other interactive programs. Shadow Health, they were talking about in another class, is really excellent. And the discussion board questions. They need to be engaging, stimulating, and with timely faculty responses. Discussion board, when you were talking about how you talked with students online, I think discussion board is the richest way to understand if someone is learning. You have to evaluate the exams, decide on the exam dates and on time frames. You have to give the exams all around the same time. Because if I give mine this week and Steve gives his in 2 weeks, well, we're given the same test. And, so that can be a little bit challenging, yes. And faculty individualization of the course. You can put your pictures up, you can change the colors, you can add to it, and really make it your own. Most people who teach it for the first time that I've spoken to, they just say, thank you very much, and they really don't do anything to update it because they're just trying to learn the course. But how wonderful for them and for our students that they're not struggling every week to make sure that Blackboard is put up. I think we talked about that. Yeah, articles, you have to update them. We don't want to have articles there that are 10 years old or PowerPoints that are not that are not relevant. Podcasts. So I have podcasts in the class with my voice. Now, even if students have never seen me or taken my course, they know me in the hallway. They say, oh, you must be Dr. Tesoro, because they recognize my voice from the podcast. But each faculty member has the opportunity to go over to Steve and rebroadcast the podcast.
Yeah.
So they can give the podcast and have their own voice, or they can change it. So they can certainly do that. And
But do you think most professors do that? No, of course not. Because because Mary's thing is perfect. So why should they change it? And one time a couple of students came into my office and they said, you know, I really like this. I didn't think it was this class. I really like my class, but I see a video of my class, but it's not my professor. And I said, I had to really do like a little tap dance. I said, well, we put that in all the classes because we wanted all the students that are taking this class to see the same thing. So.
And that is one of the things that's in there. This was a video made of a video capture lecture. So that was interesting.
We are gonna remake that lecture at some point because we think we can produce it a little bit better, and we'd like other CUNY colleges to have access to it if they want to have it.
And this is for clinical decision making. So students have to learn a model. Now, if it's live, you can talk to them. Do you understand it? How do you teach use of a model online? We're like,
Right.
oh my gosh, how does that work? And Steve and I and this class produced this video, and we've been using it in this online class for 3 years now, and not one person has said, I don't understand this. They were able very nicely just to watch the videos and be able to learn the model, use it, and it's a cognitive thinking model. So that had worked out well.
Do you want to explain a little bit about the diagram?
About?
About the PowerPoint. That's the opening diagram. That you don't own that anymore. That.
Oh,
You don't want to say
no,
that?
I leave
Okay.
that for now.
And that's it.
And I just want to go. We don't have time. Oh, but I wanted to go. I just wanted to go that master class.
The others are shorter.
Here, wait, there. Just can you click on that and see?
Oh, I don't know if it'll. Oh,
Yeah, you will. I just want to show you what the real master class looks like, so you can see that there's all blanks.
I think you're going to need to log in.
Yeah. Oh, I guess not. Okay.
You know what?
Well, I guess that's not,
You want
but you can with this master class, so the new faculty, if you were now teaching this class, you would just have to go in and put in all the dates for discussion board when they were due. You'd have to update the syllabus, putting in your information and the dates. So it really helps to standardize everything. So,
You want to log in?
no, that's
No,
all right.
okay.
All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, there's plenty of time for questions.